Good evening and welcome to episode 9 of Talking Trash. I'm James Langfield.
I'm Claire Abraham.
Bohan.
And tonight we are going to be talking about our top 5 non-wrestlers within the WWE. So those guys who managers, ring announcers, referees, commentators, anybody who's not known for being a wrestler within the confines of the WWE. We're going to be dropping that down from 5 to 1. So we'll have Claire kick things off this evening. So Claire, who was your number 5?
Well, my list does consist quite a few wrestlers who have transitioned, and number 5 is one of those, and it's Corey Graves. He's obviously not transitioned that long ago, but I really enjoy his stuff. For anyone who maybe doesn't know, he was really unfortunate, had quite a few concussions in a row and had to stop wrestling. And I think that must be a really, really hard thing to go to because if he had not had that issue, I think he would have had the best years of his career wrestling ahead of him if that hadn't happened. But he's really made it work for him. He's, I think, just a great colour commentator, even though he's not been doing it that long. He's made the transition from NXT up to the main roster doing that, and I think he's really good at it. I enjoy listening to him. I can't say that about all the other commentators on there. Corey is one I like to listen to. I enjoy his stuff on the network, Culture Shock and Superstar Inc. They're right up my street, and I really think he's good on them. And I think in a really short time, and quite suddenly having to make that change, he's done a really good job of transitioning to a kind of away from a wrestler to a different like commentary and shows and stuff like that. And I just really enjoy everything he does.
No, I agree with you. Corey Graves has had an amazing transition. I mean, even on the NXT show where he had to announce his in-ring retirement, you could tell how much that meant to him, that he can no longer wrestle. You could see it in his eyes, in his face, how he was talking, that he didn't want to give it up, but he had to. And he's made that transition very well, very professionally. He could have kicked up a stink and fucked off and gone somewhere else, but he didn't. He stuck around with WWE. They kept him on. They were good to him. So he's done a fantastic job. And even the interviews he's had, the interviews he's done with the Hardys, the interviews he's done with Kurt Angle, it's always been very professional. He knows what he's talking about. He's not there for cheap heat. He does a very good job. So I can totally understand why he made your list. Bohan, what made your number 5?
So before we jump into that, we were saying it earlier as well. It's just worth noting, just off the back of the whole Corey Graves thing. Again, just something like that. It's really nice to see how they've taken care of him as well, because there's a guy that honestly put a lot in for them, ended up in that position. Guys don't always get taken care of when stuff like that happens. It's just nice to see it happen. But my number 5 is a controversial figure in the world of wrestling. And I mean, I suppose when you're talking about people who are not in ring, I suppose he's one of the first ones that comes to mind because he never shuts his goddamn mouth, much like me. My number 5 is Jim Cornette. I love Jim Cornette. I don't agree with him on everything. He's dead wrong about the Young Bucks and Ricochet and anything that involves flippy shit because he doesn't understand what's new and hip anymore. But Jim Cornette was great as a manager. The whole tennis racket gimmick, the most harmless weapon ever, and he somehow managed to get it over. Just a fantastic all-round sort of mind for wrestling for the time. Nowadays, he still has something to contribute, but I don't think he quite understands the direction that professional wrestling has gone in since kayfabe died. But at the same time, you're talking about a guy who not only had worked with WWE and managed to make sort of certain guys, he somehow managed to help Jeff Jarrett. He managed the whole NWA gimmick thing that they made an arse of in the middle of the Attitude Era, but still managed to make it seem relatively important. He added a kind of layer of gravitas to the whole NWA thing. I mean, again, it's just a guy that he's been an authority figure in so many places. He does that job so well, I can understand why everyone would want to have him. I think he should never be your sole creative mind, but I do think he's a great contributor to that kind of sort of sphere for creative and for management. So yeah, Jim Cornette's made my number 5.
Fair enough. I like Jim Cornette. I like how he talks sometimes. Like you said, he can go off the deep end and is a little bit mental, and like I said, doesn't quite understand the direction that professional wrestling is going in nowadays. But that's Jim Cornette for you. But no, I can understand why you made your number 5. For me, my number 5 was a ring announcer. My number 5 is Howard Finkel. For me, watching wrestling, I grew up with the WWE. His voice will ever be etched in my memory as the big matches, the guy who announced the Hall of Fame entrance. Even recently at WrestleManias, he's announced the Hall of Fame entrance. He's always there. He has that sublime voice that you just know that something's important's going to happen when he announces that match. When it's for one, just his voice, it's Howard Finkel. There's no getting around Howard Finkel's voice. It was a brilliant voice. I loved hearing him announce wrestlers. Loved hearing him announce championship matches. It was just a fantastic voice, and for that reason, he makes my number 5.
The previous entry is scheduled for number 5 on the list.
Precisely, it was a brilliant voice. You couldn't hear Howard Finkel's voice and go, "Who is that?" You just knew it was Howard Finkel.
On a kind of side note, have you ever listened to any of the podcasts like Rocky Romero and Bullet Club before they were the club in WWE did? Because Luke Gallows does a spot on impression of Howard Finkel. It's completely insane. It's amazing.
No, I think I have heard him do a Howard Finkel impression, and yeah, it is absolutely spot on. It is fantastic. His Finkel is probably as good as Dean Ambrose's Dusty. But moving on
Radio
from
silence.
that, sorry about that. We did go kind of quiet for a second there. But we'll move on to our number 4s. Bohan, who made your number 4 on the list?
So my number 4 is another relatively controversial pick, and I don't think a lot of people would necessarily agree with me, but god damn it, it's my list. Number 4 for me is Teddy Long. Honestly, I know a lot of people scoff and they'll go off tag matches and one-on-ones with The Undertaker and all the same stuff, but really, for me, Teddy Long deserves a space on a list like this for a few reasons. One, because he was a guy who was, again, always willing to be the butt of jokes and always willing to be part of that. He did a lot of different roles outside of the ring. Again, he managed Doom, he managed Ron Simmons. He was and he was also very vocal about about wanting to be involved in wrestling when guys like Jim Crockett told him that black people shouldn't. At the end of the day, Teddy Long's a guy who's had a long storied career for a reason. He's been a ref, he's been everything. He's done whatever anyone's basically told him to do in the business. He's a guy who's paid his dues, he's done well, he was entertaining in his own right as a manager. The backstage segments he ran were funny. I mean, some people didn't like him. I actually happen to quite like all the stuff with Oksana and stuff like that. He just seemed like a really good foil for a lot of that stuff. He's just ultimately a guy who has a lot of my respect and I feel deserves to be on a list like this because he's done so much for the business and done so much to make sure that, if you want to be involved in wrestling, you can be involved in wrestling. Man who basically once told Jim Crockett to go and fuck himself when he told him that he shouldn't be there because he was black. So yeah, he goes on the list.
No, fair enough. I like Teddy Long. I do remember him from being a manager as well and a referee, but a lot of people will remember him from being the Teddy Long that made tag matches with everybody. So I can understand why you say it's controversial because a lot of people did like the direction that SmackDown was going when he was a manager and it was tag match after tag match. But I can see your point as to why he made your number 4. Claire, who made your number 4 on the list?
So my number 4 is Stephanie McMahon. I think I've spoke before about how much I like Steph, but she's just a great on TV and on the actual product that we watch. She's just an absolutely fantastic authority heel figure. You can't get past that. She's brilliant on the show. But from what I see from following all the, Facebook and all the social media stuff, she does so much behind the scenes. She works so hard. I think she had a big hand in kind of shaping where the women's stuff is going at the minute. She does a lot of charity work, and I think she's just a really hard worker. And I think for a non-wrestler, she's done a lot for the product, and I just really like her.
No, I agree to Stephanie McMahon. outside of being the fantastic bitch of a heel that she is on screen, is a wonderful human being. She does a lot of charity work. She always seems to, when she's talking about the WWE and what she's doing, always seems to have a smile on her face. She loves her job. She loves putting WWE out on there on the map. You can tell that it is her passion to make sure that everyone's getting a fair shake, especially the women. Without Stephanie McMahon, maybe would have got there. Not as soon as we had with Stephanie McMahon, though. She was, I think, alongside Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, they have been the forefront of pushing the women's division to where it needs to be and where it is right now. But we'll get to that later on in our show. But now I can understand why Stephanie McMahon made your list. My number 4 is an ex-wrestler, old school announcer. Used to team up with Gorilla Monsoon regularly. It's Jesse the Body Ventura. Yes, Jesse the Body Ventura is now about as crazy as a box of frogs and is madly into conspiracy theories. But back in the day, Jesse the Body Ventura was the best heel commentator around. And from people like JBL and Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler, they all take something from Jesse the Body Ventura, who truly showed you how to be a heel commentator, how you sided with the bad guy, how you ripped on the good guy for being, all goody two-shoes, and you said that a bad guy was simply being opportunistic. It was one of those things that you hated Jesse Ventura for being that way, but you loved how he talked about those guys. If you loved the fact that a bad guy could cheat and win, and it was something that was acceptable to him, and it was just the way he spoke, the way he teamed with Gorilla Monsoon. They're a fantastic partnership on the mic. I love Jesse Ventura. I love the way he talks. Yes, he's mad now, but back in the day, he was a fantastic heel commentator, and for that reason, the fact that he's been an inspiration for other heel commentators is why he makes my number 4.
Yeah, conspiracy theories and current stuff aside, I can totally see why you made your list.
Again, no Jesse Ventura, no Bobby the Brain Heenan. He kind of set the standard for that kind of stuff, and it definitely helped a lot. I mean, it'd be a dull dynamic on commentary if we literally just had the faces being put over. I know it worked in the 70s and 80s, but I can't imagine going back to that.
No, like I said, it's one of those things you can't have just people saying the good guys are the good guys. You need somebody to be a foil to say, hold on a second, yeah, he might not be the best. He might be the best person personality wise, but he's getting the job done. He's winning matches. Yeah, there might not be legal ways of winning matches, but he's doing what he needs to do to win a match, keep a belt. And that, I think, is a nice way of having a counterpoint to somebody who's just saying that this guy's a good guy. He needs to be the one who wins the match. I like when you have a heel commentator. It's always good. But moving on from there, we're at our number 3 point. Claire, who was your number 3 on the list?
My number 3 was Paul Heyman. I didn't feel like I could have a non-wrestlers list without Paul E on it. I mean, he's just the man. As soon as he comes out, you want to hear him talk. You want him to have a mic. He's a great personality. He's maybe not done all that good for the industry in some regards, but he has done a lot for the business, and he's just a great promoter. Whoever you send out with Paulie is going to get put over, because Paulie's just so good at his job, and he's so charismatic, and he just draws everyone in, and he just couldn't not be on my list.
No, I agree with you, and my number 3 is also Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is the hype man to be of all hype men. He knows how to get a guy over. He knows how to get a match over. The one exception to that was Cesaro. I don't know why he couldn't get Cesaro over, but something about Cesaro and Paul Heyman just didn't click. But any other time Paul Heyman's with anybody, you know that guy's going to get over. He's going to get pushed. He's going to get matches. He's going to be the guy. And he is fantastic. Yeah, he's only working with Brock Lesnar, but he only needs to work with Brock Lesnar. The man knows how to sell a match. The man knows how to sell anything. The guy could literally sell ice cubes to Eskimos, and they would pay him for it. He is the salesman beyond all salesmen. He knows exactly what he's going to say, when he's going to say it, how to say it. If you want to cut a promo and you've never cut a promo before, speak to Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman will teach you how to tell a promo like nobody else. But if you haven't got it inside you, there's something about Paul Heyman that just makes him that upper level promo cutter. And whether that's just the inherent talent he's had or something that he's honed over the years, I don't know. But there's something about Paul Heyman that just, he knows how to cut a promo. And if you're not looking at Paul Heyman's promos and making notes if you're a professional wrestler on how to cut a promo, then you're making a mistake, because that man knows how to cut a promo.
I mean, again, he's the closest thing you have realistically to an old school carnival barker as well. Like, promoter's the right word for him. That's exactly what Paulie has always been. Businessman, maybe not so much, given ECW went under, but at the same time, when you look at Paulie and his ability to actually draw eyes to a product and get people to really believe in something, it's like a carnival barker stood with a megaphone shouting, "Step right up." It's just such an old skill that seems to be a dying art now.
No, and it is a shame. Like I said, the guys who are cutting promos now need to take notes. And anybody who's a promoter, even outside of professional wrestling, take notes from Paul Heyman, because he will show you how to promote your product. But like I said, he was my number 3, so I've already gone through mine and Claire's as they were the same. Bohan, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is another one that's going to shock and probably piss off a lot of people. But again, don't care. My list. My number 3 is Vicky Guerrero. Again, when I talked about Teddy Long, it's the same thing here in a lot of respects. It's willing to be the butt of a joke and willing to do whatever it takes to entertain people. You've got a woman there who, we're talking maybe a couple of years after losing her husband, who, they had a somewhat weird relationship when you really look into it, but at the same time, she clearly loved them dearly. She came back into the business to work, and a lot of people kind of looked down on her when she initially came in, and she then just this sort of awkward middle-aged suburban mother, who hasn't realized what age she is. She had the annoying voice. She was willing to be dumped into the bucket of shit and stuff like that. She was someone that was willing to do anything to entertain. And it's got to be hard in that scenario. She's not a dumb woman. She's going out there knowing full well that people are booing her because of her voice. They're booing her because of the kind of weird, inappropriate relationship angle with Edge, stuff like that. These people are actively mocking her, and she's goading it and going, "Come on, that's what I'm here for. Let's entertain." That's really a great sort of level of understanding in the business, and that's really being bigger than sort of being able to be big enough to be that kind of character is a difficult thing to do. She did it so well. She drew so much heat. I feel like, again, she's somebody that can't be left off of this list. And again, she did it as someone who didn't really have all that much experience of the industry personally at that stage. Vicky Guerrero is a great example of somebody who jumped arse first into it and was just great at it.
No, I agree. Vicky Guerrero, she was the woman you love to hate. She was a fantastic heel. She like you said, she was willing to do anything to entertain, anything to get the crowd to boo her. She was doing her job right. So yeah, I can totally see why she made your list. Given that, we're moving on. We're on to our number 2s. I'll kick things off this time. My number 2 is the one, the only, good old JR, Jim Ross. He is, without a shadow of the doubt, the greatest commentator of all time. That man could sell a match between 2 broomsticks and it would sound like the most important match you've ever heard in your life. He knew how to put gravitas on every single move. If it was important, he knew how to sell that move as if that move was the end of the world for that person taking that move. He knew how to sell a match as if that match was the be-all and end-all of this feud. Anytime he was on the mic talking about a match, talking about wrestlers, he knew exactly what he was saying. He had the knowledge, he had the skill set. I mean, even now on the Mae Young Classic, which we'll get into later on in the show, he is still a fantastic commentator. He knows, to be fair, he's probably forgotten more about professional wrestling and how to commentate than we'll ever know. That, like I said, that man, for me, is the greatest commentator of all time. And Jim Ross, for me, will go down in history as being that man. Because, like I said, he knew how to sell a match. Just that match, Undertaker, Mankind, falling off the cell, just hearing him saying, "Oh my God, he's been broken in half. Stop the damn match. They've killed him." That gravitas that you put there, you couldn't get that from anybody else. Jim Ross is that person who put that heat on that match. And on the flip side of that, anytime you hear him talk about the country analogies, slobber knockers, he's as tough as a $2 steak, he's going to be taken out to the woodshed. It just brought a smile to my face hearing that sort of stuff from JR. And I will always love JR, and I will always respect and I will always admire everything that he did for the world of professional wrestling. Thank you, JR, and you made my number 2.
Yeah, no, I just absolutely love listening to JR, and I'm so glad they've got him on the Mae Young. Just having a chance to hear him do that, I love listening to him commentate matches. He just sells everything. It's brilliant, and he just seems like such a nice guy as well. Like genuinely a really nice person.
I mean, all of this is why he made my fucking number 1, but that suspense is blown now. Yeah, JR just fundamentally, like, it's a different level of calling that kind of entertainment. There are a few guys that honestly I appreciate as much in terms of what they did for sort of putting over small touches and stuff like that. I mean, the only other one I can really think of offhand is probably Mike Tenay, possibly Larry Zbyszko, given he had some sort of ability to call matches in a sort of straight play-by-play way. But JR was the perfect counterpoint to the outlandish, ridiculous one-liner Jerry the King Lawler in the 90s. He was right there to be the straight man and there to sort of just reel off what was actually going on. That's kind of something that gets lost on some guys who do commentary. They seem to forget that you're actually meant to be, commentating on the fucking match in front of you. That has never been a problem for JR. JR always adds to matches, never takes away, always points out little things like, look at how close to the ropes he was, or, oh, look at that, he's pinning him again, he's getting him to exert energy. That's why you go for these pinfalls in the match. All of those little things that made things make sense are such an absolute godsend on commentary, especially when you look at what you get these days sometimes. He is fundamentally probably the best man to ever sit in the announcer's booth. That's why WCW go.
Nah, like I say, he was fantastic, and I do apologize for taking away from your number 1 spot. But like I say, he makes my number 2 spot. But going on from that, Claire, who made your number 2?
So my number 2 is Sarah Del Rey. She's currently the assistant head coach at NXT. She was the first female coach at NXT. She did have a wrestling career before she came into the WWE as a trainer. She was actually notably Shimmer's inaugural champion. Had a long career before she came in. But I think she's one of those people, she's starting to get a little bit more credit now. But I don't think she gets enough credit for what she does in that performance center with the women when she's training. She does so much for those recruits. She works so hard with them. I think she's had a huge hand in the development of the women's division recently. I think, potentially it would be just as good, but in my humble opinion, I don't think the women's division would be anywhere near as good as it is at the moment, not having her as a trainer. And I just think she's done so much in the space of time she's been there. And, it's such an accomplishment to be, an assistant head coach in the industry, which is only really, especially in the WWE, getting away from I guess, not really respecting female wrestling previously, is maybe the nicest way to put it. But yeah, I respect her so much. I thought she was a great wrestler, and I think she does a lot of stuff with the talent. And I think she's quite underappreciated and underknown in the sphere of just fans. I don't think that there's maybe not a lot of people who really know who she is and really know how much she does. But I think she's just fantastic and done a brilliant job since she's came in.
No, I mean, I don't know a lot about Sarah Del Rey prior to the fact that she is, like I said, an assistant head coach. But certainly the work that she has done coming in and helping those women, and to put on the matches that they put on and to hone their skill sets to the level that we now are expecting is just amazing. She's done a fantastic job with those girls, and it is a wonder. That how well she's done there is fantastic, and I totally understand why she made your number 2. Bohan, what is your number 2? Sorry.
Just before jumping into it again, yeah, Sarah Del Rey's somebody that deserves a hell of a lot more respect in the industry than she seems to get from the fans. Like that's a woman that had a great independent career in her own right, and if you ever get the time, it's worth going and looking at the stuff she did. She was just honestly a fantastically underrated talent at a time when women's wrestling wasn't as hot as it is now. If she'd came around, say 3-4 years later, she'd be fucking like she'd be one of the most respected female wrestlers that's probably ever been around. She just happened to be in the industry at a time where women's wrestling wasn't really in vogue. It's a real shame. And as a trainer, you can see the impact she's had on people like Sasha and on Bailey. Like look at that crop of women that come up from NXT that everyone was so excited about. That's all her. But I mean, my number 2, moving on, is my number 2 is a manager that's quite iconic to a lot of yours and my generation. It's Paul Bearer. I felt like when I looked at this kind of list, like I would struggle not to find a space for him. I find Paul Bearer to be tremendously entertaining. It's campy, it's silly, but it's done in such a way that anything he was involved in, whether it was standing at the side holding the Undertaker's arm just to get popped by a face, or whether it was, being involved in the whole sort of Kane coming forward angle and the being drowned in cement, and like there are so many moments with Paul Bearer basically that you can pick out. And there's a guy as well who is honestly quite a weird character. Like I don't know if a lot of people necessarily realize this or not, but he was actually a licensed mortician. That was a man who actually put bodies in the goddamn ground, and he went along with that as a gimmick, and it just worked great for him. I've heard him speak about that on like sort of interviews he's done and stuff, and he spoke so fondly of it, which is kind of strange. But he did always seem like a strange dude anyway. But like Paul Bearer is a guy who contributed a lot in and out of wrestling, it would appear, when you really go and look at his sort of sphere. And he's a guy that honestly like sort of just sticks out in my mind whenever you think about the 90s in wrestling. Whenever you think about whenever you think about the 90s in wrestling, you always think about The Undertaker, but it's difficult to think about The Undertaker without thinking of my number 2.
Oh, yes. Just love hearing that sound anytime you knew that you just knew that was Paul Bearer. It was a fantastic sound, and God rest Paul Bearer. He was a fantastic manager, and he will be sorely missed, definitely in the world of professional wrestling. But we've run through our 5s to our 2s, and we're at our number 1. Unless Bohan has any more platitudes that he wants to bestow against good old JR, I think we know his number 1 was JR. So do you have anything?
I've got a bonus sub here because there was someone who almost made the list, and if JR's already on yours, it doesn't matter too much. My number 1 then goes to Bobby the Brain Heenan. I'm calling it on the fly. Bobby the Brain Heenan honestly should have made my list the first time. I'm actually kind of pissed off at myself that I didn't get Bobby the Brain on there. He is a guy that honestly contributed so much to wrestling. His commentary is something truly special to me. Like, having watched WWF like the earlier days before I was watching as a kid, but the main place that I saw most of my Bobby the Brain was at WCW. And there's a guy that was just really quick-witted, really funny, really sarcastic, always willing to belittle himself, willing to be Bobby the Weasel. Again, should have probably made my list the first time around. Really sorry he didn't, but Bobby the Brain Heenan gets my de facto number 1 now. And yeah, again, he's a man that fundamentally understood the business, did a lot for it. Along the same lines as Jesse Ventura was one of the first guys to really call it as a heel commentator, worked great as a manager. There was nothing he couldn't do, basically.
No, and Bobby the Brain Heenan was one of the greatest managers of all time. If you ask anybody who's ever been a manager who their favorite manager is, 9 times out of 10 it's Bobby the Brain Heenan. Even Paul Heyman states that without Bobby the Brain Heenan, there is no Paul Heyman. Bobby the Brain Heenan inspired generations of managers, commentators. Anybody who's anybody is inspired by Bobby the Brain Heenan, one of the greatest of all time. That being said, we've got our number 1 from Bohan. Claire, who's your number 1?
My number 1 is Mr. William Regal. Another one who had a great wrestling career before he transitioned to more kind of backstage stuff. Obviously, the commissioner of NXT right now, also a trainer at NXT. I believe just NXT, but I know he's a trainer definitely. We have him to thank for many of the people you're seeing come through NXT right now. He is heavily involved in recruiting talent. He was heavily involved in the UK tournament, which was fantastic. So in the backstage stuff, like recruiting and training talent, he's doing a fantastic job. Like I said, with some of the people we are seeing come up now that he's been involved in bringing in, it's just fantastic at the moment. But also on NXT, as the commissioner of NXT, I think he plays a fantastic role. He just, again, is one of those people who seems like such a nice guy, but he's got that like power behind him. If someone starts to kick off like Pete Dunne, to have that imposing figure there that is in charge of everything to bring, you know, people who are being unruly back down into touch. He's got that, you know, angry dad thing going on really, really well. Like, you will behave, this is my show, and you're going to do what I tell you. And I just really respect him, and he's just someone that I really enjoy seeing and watching, and really appreciate having backstage to, you know, kind of steer things and make sure that we're getting a good product and we're getting good talent. So yeah, Mr. William Regal is my number one.
No, I can totally understand why you had William Regal. William Regal, for me, one of the greatest guys who never got a big belt. He had European, and I think he might have had an Intercontinental and tag team belts on occasion, but he never got that big one. And for me, that's a shame. But he has done a fantastic job training the guys, bringing them up. He's the manager of NXT, and he does a brilliant job there as well. Just a fantastic guy in front of the camera, behind the camera. But yeah, I totally see why he made your number one. For me, my number one is the man for all your William Regals, your Jesse Venturas, your everybody who's, you know, in WWE. They wouldn't be around unless he had taken WWE in the direction that it's now in, and that's Vincent Kennedy. But man, he bought over his dad's company, ripped up the rule book regarding territories, and turned WWE into a multinational juggernaut that it is today. We wouldn't have WrestleMania, we wouldn't have the Big Four, we wouldn't have all the shows that we have today without Vince McMahon. He knew how to get things over, he knew how to get the job done. And yeah, people hated him at the time this was happening, and there were plans to try and kill Vince McMahon at one point. But ultimately, without Vince McMahon, we don't have WWE as we know it today. And, you know, as the list of non-wrestlers goes, you can't have non-wrestlers without the man who made all those non-wrestlers' careers possible. You know, and that is Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And for those reasons, the fact that he's got WWE to where it is today, he makes my list. He makes my number one.
I'll say it because you might not believe it if it comes out Bohan's mouth, but he did call your number one earlier today. Because, quite frankly, how can you not have a list like this with Vincent Kennedy McMahon on it? I mean, the man has shaped wrestling, especially in America, as we know it today. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the WWE, and we wouldn't be sitting here talking about all of this. He's been a huge figure in the industry, hugely influential. Not obviously on my list, but can completely appreciate why he made your number one, and he did deserve to be on somebody's list today.
Literally, the only reason he wasn't on my list was because I knew he'd be your number one. Simple as that. I try and keep these nice and varied so we can get a nice set of topics and opinions, so we can get a full discussion out of it. I like to make sure that, you know, obviously we've got a couple of different ones so that we don't end up going, you know, oh yeah, we all had the exact same number 3, 2, and 1. But there is a reason he made your number one immediately. He was one of the first people that came to mind when thinking about this, because again, he's a guy that's done everything he's needed to do. He's done commentary, although his commentary maybe not as strong as some of the other non-wrestler guys we've talked about today, but everything else he did, He did wrestle briefly. He showed up to shows as an authority figure. He basically set the benchmark for what that should be. He managed to stay very restrained and amongst everything going on with Eric Bischoff as well in the 90s, which speaks volumes about his actual abilities as a businessman, not even addressing that. Fundamentally, a great character, a solid businessman. There's a lot of questions about what kind of human being he is, but we'll not go into that. I mean, at the end of the day, he's someone who obviously had to make number one on someone's list, and I knew it'd be yours.
Well, fair enough. But yeah, like I said, we wouldn't even have this podcast to talk about if Vince McMahon wasn't around for WWE. But that being said, we've done our list. Now we're going to move on to our spoiler-heavy section of the show, and I'm going to do a little bit of a review. Have you both you guys watched all 8 episodes of the Mae Young Classic?
Yes, we have.
I literally couldn't hold fire on them. As soon as I saw they were up and available for me to watch, it was getting consumed.
Not same. I've watched all 8 as well, so just to make sure we're not spoiling it for each other. But a little bit of spoiler. We're going to discuss the Mae Young Classic and the 8 episodes that have been available to stream on the WWE network. All 8 episodes are available, going from the first round all the way up to the semi-final match, and the finale is on Tuesday night. Guys, what did you think of the Mae Young Classic? The 8 shows that we saw, the matches up to the final that's going to happen in a couple of days.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, talked about this quite a lot because we've been watching it. There has definitely not been a bad match. There's been a few matches that haven't been as good as others, but on we've had, what is it, 8 shows so far?
8 shows, yeah.
8-hour-long shows. That's to be expected, that not all of them are going to be at the same caliber. And you do have a lot of girls who haven't been wrestling for quite as long. Sorry, women who haven't been wrestling for very long on there. So it's to be expected that not all the matches on there are going to be 5-star caliber. But there hasn't been a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. They've all been good. There's been some fantastic matches in there. And just a general overview, really enjoyed it so far.
No, I agree. It's been brilliant. I've enjoyed every match. Like I said, there hasn't been a bad match. Like I said, a couple of ones that are of a lower standard than the others, but nothing bad, nothing train crash, nothing car wreck worthy. But no, it's been a good tournament, and hopefully they'll carry it on and do it again next year. Because I'm really enjoying this, and it's finally good to see WWE bringing the women out of the dark ages, so we can finally forget the Attitude Era of women's wrestling, because that was dog shit terrible. And now they're producing a show which I can actually be proud to say I enjoy watching women's wrestling.
Again, just as a general overview, because I've written a few talking points down. I say a few, it's probably less than about 10. We're probably not going to get through all of it, but overall, show's been great. Couple of matches that were weak, I wouldn't say bad. I think they did the best with what they had available for some of them. Like when you look at some of the kind of greener talent, which might go into in a bit, they really didn't have a whole load of sort of weapons in their arsenal, so to speak, but they did what they could with what they had available to them, which speaks volumes to how well this was booked at points. There's been a couple of things throughout the bracket I would maybe have changed, I would maybe have restructured it, but I mean, other than that, overall it's been a great show. I've really enjoyed it. I would like to see how this ends, although I'm pretty sure I think I know how it ends at this point, but there are a lot of nice surprises, a lot of really good talent showcased, a lot of people getting their due at long last from the big company. People who've been about for a long time deserved a lot more respect than what they've ever gotten. It was nice to see a lot of those people get exactly what they deserved, wrestling in front of the kind of size of audience they should be in front of.
No, definitely agree with you. Let's go for some standout stars from the Mae Young Classic. For me, one of mine was Toni Storm. She was a young girl, and I just liked her attitude. She was pretty green. She was only 20, from Australia. She just had that kind of attitude that I liked. I enjoyed what she did. I enjoyed the moves that she had. I enjoyed the matches that she had. I mean, obviously WWE did. She made it all the way to the semi-finals, and it was a pretty. She was really good. I really enjoyed it. So for me, one of my standout stars was Toni Storm. How about yourself, Bohan?
I don't think it's fair for what it's worth, by the way, to call Toni Storm green, because there's a woman, she might be young, but she's much the same as like Noam Dar and that. She's been working for a long time. I've seen Toni Storm at Progress. She's a very, very talented woman. Green's maybe not necessarily, if she's young, I'd take, but Green's maybe a bit much on the nose. I felt like she worked really well. I felt she worked really well with another one of my standouts, which was Viper. I mean, maybe I'm biased as an ICW fan, but I fucking love Viper. Seeing them put her over that hard, seeing her go through as far as that was fucking great. That last match she had with Toni Storm was fucking incredible. There were quite a few standouts for me. I mean, to name a couple, like Tessa Blanchard was really good. Like, it was a real shame that they put her where they put her in the first round with Kairi Sane. Serena Deeb was nice to see back. Glad, I realise this is going to sound dead sarcastic, but glad she's not dead, because she kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, and she was somebody that I actually really enjoyed her work. Always good to see Candice LeRae again. Princess Shugi was quite good as well. I mean, there's a lot of people in there that were quite good. Nice to see like Kimberly, even if they've renamed her, doing the Gator Clutch as well. Like, really bringing back home what a lot of this is about. I mean, you could probably pick about half the bracket and say they've been standouts, to be honest. It's been a really, really good set of talent they've had in for the tournament.
How about yourself, Claire? Anybody that stood out for you?
Yeah, well, I agree with you again. Same as Bohan, maybe it's because I'm a little bit biased, but really, really enjoyed seeing Viper. Really happy she got, a decent run at it. Same as yourself, really enjoyed Toni Storm. Just love her attitude, love her whole style. Somebody that I could just watch over and over again. Can't wait to see her more. One that I don't think's been mentioned yet, and I thought I found quite impressive, and I think she's going to go quite far in the industry. I don't believe she's been wrestling for very long at the moment, but it's actually Bianca Belair. For not having wrestled for very long, she is really good. She's been working, and you can tell, and she is a powerhouse. I don't know if anyone else, I know Bohan maybe knows from me having told him, but I kind of kept track of the NXT Combine as it was going on, and she is a powerhouse for her size. What she's lifting, the girls were doing bench push-ups with the bar at 75 pounds. She did 50. And I can't remember off the top of my head what her kind of weighted squat and stuff was, but she's an absolute powerhouse. She was looking really good, and I think she's going to go really far if she keeps working.
No, I like Bianca Belair. I especially like the hair whip gimmick that she's got. Because obviously it's gonna hurt, especially how tightly that's braided at the bottom there. And I like how she can use it because it's part of her, so it's not something that she can get disqualified for. And I just like that gimmick that she can use her hair to whip people.
It sounded absolutely fucking brutal as well.
Vicious. It sounds vicious when she used it. I believe it was against Kairi Sane. It sounded vicious.
Oh no, it sounds like it is just absolutely caning your skin, and you can imagine if she actually was putting full power behind that, you're gonna take a couple of layers of flesh off. I reckon she could do if she really put some power behind whipping that.
Well, you could see the fucking welts on Kairi Sane. It was like looking at someone who'd just taken cane shots. Like, you could see the big welt on her leg that had taken the impact. It was unreal. I didn't know hair could do that much damage, to be frank.
Neither did I, but I guess, like I said, because of how tightly woven it is into that braid at the bottom, it's going to be a really thick chunk of hair, and so it's going to really hurt once you get some power behind that whip. Going on from our standout stars, was there anybody you felt should have gone further in the competition but didn't?
Actually, there was a few, and maybe this is a good point to talk about this, because I've only really got two things that I wasn't very happy with in the Mae Young, and I'd like to talk about them now so we can maybe move on to a happier, it was really good ending, because I don't want to take away from how good it's been. But I don't think Shayna Baszler should have gone as far. I don't, Baszler, sorry, I'm terrible with names. I don't think she should have beat Candice LeRae, and I don't think she should have beat Mercedes Martinez. I think being really cynical, and this is one of the things I didn't really enjoy, I think the only reason she's won is to do a kind of pull in Ronda Rousey storyline later on. That's me being quite cynical. Maybe it's not, but that's the impression I get from it, and it was something I didn't quite like, and she's the standout one for me that shouldn't have gone as far as she has.
Again, WWE pulling the whole sort of look MMA's legitimate card though, like they do with Brock Lesnar and stuff. You're right. I don't think she should have went as far as she did. I'm not saying she's not good. Shayna Baszler's talented, but she honestly in that field, I wouldn't have put her as a finals contender. I would maybe have given her quarters. I don't know about semis, but like I honestly feel like they've missed a lot of booking opportunities for the sake of having the legitimate MMA star in there. Like, I think you're right. I think there might be a big element of the whole sort of like they're trying to pull something with the four horsewomen on both sides kind of thing. I mean, it was just one of those things. Viper could have had Kairi Sane had it not been for that, and that would have been a great match because the pair of them have worked at Stardom and it's worked out really well for both of them. I don't think that she was necessarily the one I would have picked for that. Again, I feel like when you put someone like Tessa Blanchard out in the first round, so we've got a big surprise going out like that, it's really weird to see Shayna Baszler sitting right there at the end. Again, I'm not saying she's not. I just don't really see her as a winner in that tournament, or even as a finalist for that matter. Maybe I'm a bit harsh, but that's my opinion of the matter. You know.
No, I agree with both of you. Personally, I don't particularly I like I said, she's talented. She put on some okay matches, but it was just I never really got behind her. I didn't really feel anything about Shayna. I didn't like her. I didn't particularly feel, yes, I don't like her. I kind of had that heel reaction when she held the sleeper on Candice LeRae for longer than she needed to. She kind of got that heel reaction, but I just didn't connect with her on a level that you connect with some of the other women. Like I said with Toni Storm, I had a connection. I connected with her. I liked what she did. I just didn't have a connection either way with Shayna Baszler. And like I said, maybe it is being cynical, but for me, it's probably going to be what we're into now. September. Survivor Series is coming up in the next couple of months. Gives Ronda Rousey enough time to get at least partially ring ready for some sort of 4 horsewomen versus the 4 horsewomen of NXT at Survivor Series. That's a cynical point of view of something they're probably going to end up doing if they do that. But yeah, I wouldn't have had Shayna Baszler as a finalist. But be that as it may, that's WWE's decision. We don't want to leave it on a sour note. So
just before we
it's been a fantastic.
Before we do launch into the kind of brighter part of it, I do think that a large part of that as well, though, is limited offense. You'll have noticed in the match she had with Mercedes Martinez, she kind of took a lot of the heat throughout that. She took a lot of the sort of blows and everything that built up to a very short finishing segment for her. Her offense is very limited. She sells quite well, but her offense still seems to be very limited in terms of being very punch kicky. I think that's a large part of it as well.
No, it probably is. She does seem to not have a lot of, wrestling holds. I'd like to see maybe put some suplexes, a DDT, something in there, sort of a hold variety. She's got some nice. She had that nice transition into the finisher, from Candice LeRae's Wild Light into the rear naked choke. That was nice, but like I said, it is a little bit limited. I just want to put one.
No, I was going to say, if it's okay, before we jump into the more light-hearted, it was great stuff, I just want to say as well, the other thing that I've not particularly enjoyed, and I feel kind of bad, but it's Lita on commentary. I like Lita, I really do, but I don't think she's been great on commentary. I mean, thank God for JR. I'm so happy he's there. But I mean, he's asked her like direct questions and got radio silence. Like, I really don't think she's been great. I think there's potentially other women they could have picked. If they really wanted a women commentator, I commend them on that. But I think they could have picked a better women commentator.
Oh no, I agree with you. I personally would have had Renee Young. I mean, they said they were going to have Alundra Blaze doing backstage segments, but where the fuck did they go?
That's a very good question. I mean, just so that we're getting all of the bitter out in one chunk as well, there was one other thing for me, and it was the fact that, like, I get why they did this. They used it as a platform to launch some of their newer NXT talent who've not really had any experience of being on TV. And I get why it's okay to do that in a first round tournament match and get it over quickly. But I mean, like, the thing is, Jali, for example, with Mercedes Martinez, she was the Kung Fu practitioner, Wing Chun, I believe. Like, she was very good at striking. She had a lot of, like, sort of good movement to her. She understood a lot of the fundamentals, but the move set isn't there yet again. It just wasn't really something that was necessarily a great upshot for her. She looked all right. They only had her out for a brief period of time. Maybe she'll be great when she comes back. The other one was Kavita Devi, because like she did the whole sort of the only memorable spot she had in the entire match she had with Dakota Kai was when she ran the ropes and then jumped over and pulled her down, like that sort of weird accelerated version of the Undertaker's old school move. It's all right, but I mean it doesn't make a move set. That and a press slam isn't enough. I really hope that before they bring her back out, they're going to give her enough that she can actually work with. I mean, other than that, there weren't really any negatives to really talk about, but there were some of the talent in there that were clearly, like the people who are contracted to NXT that are trying to get a first outing for, who were just too green to be in that field. It's all right to do that if you're doing it on house shows and stuff like that, or even if you're doing it on NXT TV where it's a squash match, they're out for a little bit and then they're gone. But see, doing that in that tournament, it really highlighted how green they were, especially when you look at the partners they were given. They did everything they could to draw decent matches out of them, but sometimes people are just too green for something like that, and I think this might have been the case.
No, I agree with you. One final point, and this isn't about the show itself. This is just me being, for want of a better phrase, a bit of a grammar Nazi. Why do they refer to it as a finals when there is only one match? It is a singular fucking match. It is the final. There is not a series of matches. It is not the finals because you're having more than one match. It is the final, not the finals, the final match. Stop calling it the finals.
The reason Americans do that, though, is because the word final comes at the end of quarter and semi. So anything that goes from that point onwards is considered finals in American sport. I understand it's weird, but they refer to them as the finals because they're called finals. Quarterfinal, semi-final, that kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, but I can understand quarterfinals, there's 4 matches. Semi-finals, 2 matches. Finals does not implies more than one match. It is not. It's a singular. It is the final match. So it should be the final, not the finals. If you're having more than one match in a finals, you're having a best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, as you do in the NFL, the NHL, the NBA. They have finals because they're having more than one match to decide a championship winner. You're not having that in the WWE. It's a single elimination tournament. It is the final match. If you're having a series of matches to determine the champion, the winner of the Mae Young Classic, then yes, I can understand. If you're having a finals, it's the best of 3. Then those people, then it can be classified as a final. This is the finals because we're having more than one match. But they're not. They're having one match. It should just be the final. That's just my bugbear.
I totally agree with you. I totally get where you're coming from. But in a way, it kind of speaks volumes to the tournament that really we have very few minor things to pick at, and one of those is grammar. Really, it speaks a lot for the tournament.
No, it really does. Like I say, I've not really got a lot bad to say. None of us have got a lot bad to say about it. It's been a fantastic tournament. And like I said, it has been an absolute breath of fresh air to finally have somewhat a show that you can be proud to say, this features women. Watch it. It is fantastic. It's not laughing at women. It's not making women a sex symbol. It's not making them the object of desire. They're not a lust figure anymore. These are women who have reasons to be fighting in a ring because they all want to be the winner of this illustrious initial title as the winner of the Mae Young Classic. They have a reason for wanting to be in this tournament. It's not two women flung into the ring and made to hit pillows at each other until feathers explode or to rip each other's clothes off. We're not having that anymore. And that, for me, is an absolute fantastic breath of fresh air. I mean, my wife, who isn't a wrestling fan, was actually quite interested when I told her about how good this is and how it showcases women off as just being women fighting. She was initially going, oh, I don't want to watch it. It's going to be bitchy and catty. And I'm like, no, they're not slapping each other and pulling each other's hair. They are throwing wrestling moves. They are hitting each other with forearms and punches and kicks. It's not the catchy bitch fights that you expect, that people have come to expect from divas matches that we used to have back in the day. Even that word is no longer bandied around anymore. They are women's superstars. And it's absolutely fantastic to see this. Me and Claire, with the show, had a conversation as to, off the back of this, maybe we'll get a separate women's show, and for me that would be fantastic as well. It would be so good to have somewhere where the women can truly show what they can do in the middle of a ring, because right now Raw and SmackDown they have this women's revolution, but they're still not fully committed to showcasing the women to their full potential, and maybe it would need the women having their own independent show on the network to truly get us to pay attention and see what these women can do.
No, it's brilliant. Just clean, simple. The storyline is they want the accolade of being the first Mae Young Classic winner. Just nice, simple, pure wrestling. I love that. You're not getting these blown out storylines. You're not getting 6 women matches just to throw all the women out there and have them out there. You're not bringing in stuff that's happened on Total Divas to start a feud. It's just nice, clean, good female wrestlers doing what they do best. And I just really, really enjoy it. It's such a joy to see. There are plenty of promotions out there where I have seen women's wrestling before that is really good. It's nice to finally see it transcending onto the WWE network, because it should have had more respect than it's had for such a long time now. And it's so good to finally see it starting to get the respect it deserves, because they are phenomenal athletes who work just as hard as the male superstars and deserve just the same as the male superstars. And it's nice to see that finally happening.
While we're talking about the legitimacy of this thing, I just want to bring up a point from Kairi Sane and Bianca Belair. Have you ever seen a backfist that fucking stiff or that fucking pretty? My God, I've watched Japanese wrestling for a long time. Backfist, not like that. That was beautiful. It connected. It looked like it rattled her fucking jaw. It was amazing. Like, that was one of those things that I rewound and played back several times just to see it again and again and again. It was just so perfect.
I can testify he did do that about 6 times, and then when we watched the next episode and it was in the highlight package at the start of the show, he rewound the highlight package just to watch that back fist. But I can't deny that it was absolutely fantastic.
No, it wasn't. And Kairi Sane's elbow drop is an absolute thing of beauty. I'm hoping that she wins something.
I like to believe that if there's something beyond this plane, like if there's some world beyond this, every time she goes up to that top rope, Randy stood somewhere just going, oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely. That Randy has to be proud of that elbow drop, because, like I said, that is a thing of absolute beauty. I mentioned it just briefly in my little monologue there. Claire said it'd be cool. Do you reckon we might get a women's show at the back of this, Andy?
I don't know how I feel about the suggestion, because realistically, what we really need to see is more women's wrestling on the main roster, frankly. I feel like if they give them another, like if they give like the network a women's show and they bring a lot of this talent on, we run the risk of it being 205 Live than it not necessarily getting the kind of clout that it deserves. I feel like, honestly, the bigger focus should be trying to get more of that talent onto the main roster, because you've got an absolute raft of women coming through the developmental system right now. You've got enough talent to actually make like sort of a decent women's division within your show. You've got the time to dedicate to it. I mean, fuck, why not just have hour 2, like, or an hour and a half of fucking Raw, rather than recaps and all of the bullshit, be just the cruiserweights and women's matches? Like, actually dedicate more of the show to it in the first place. because that's how you're gonna get eyes on the actual fucking product. Because I mean, it's great to put it on the network, and the likes of I and Claire and all of the people who are really into the product will get to see it. But if you really want to legitimize women's wrestling and make it important, the focus has to be on getting more of it on the TV product where more eyes are. Definitely. It's not that a women's show wouldn't be a good thing. It's just that I wouldn't like it to turn into an excuse for it not to be a big deal on the main roster, which could very easily happen in that scenario. It's a very tenuous balance, you know?
No, I agree with you. I see your point there. That being said, as you were mentioning, the fact we've got a raft of women coming through the developmental system, at the moment you've just got the Raw Women's Championship and the SmackDown's Women's Championship. If they are going to expand the rosters and bring more and more women up, would you like them to see them expanding the titles? Maybe have a women's tag team division?
I think if you can get enough women in, dedicate enough time to it, and sort out your writing, then sure, I'd love to see women's belts. Anything that promotes how good those women are, because they have fantastic matches. The Mae Young is just a testament to what women's wrestling can be if you treat it right. I mean, that's going into deeper issues that we kind of skirt around quite often on here with the writing and stuff like that. That's deeper issues that need to be fixed on the product as a whole. But yeah, if they could give more time to it, if they could write well for it, I would have absolutely no problem with seeing more women's wrestling and introducing more belts. Even if it's not tag belts, even if it's a secondary belt like the Intercontinental belt for the men, I don't mind either way. I'd just be happy to continue to see the women's roster develop and be treated well.
I'd rather see a secondary women's belt at this stage for that reason as well, because you've seen how even the male tag division, while it's going through a mild renaissance right now, like they cut the head off a lot of teams this year. Like they're very wishy-washy about the sort of tag division in general. I'd quite like to see a women's secondary belt. I'd like to see there be like a female version of the Intercontinental belt. Call it whatever you want. Call it the Mae Young Memorial title or something. Whatever. Like or the the Alundra Blaze Women's Championship or something like that. I don't see any reason why it couldn't work. I feel like if
the women's TV title.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, just so long as you had a secondary belt there. The importance of secondary belt's lost on a lot of us, but like the fact of the matter is, it gives you an opportunity to build talent without having to shove them into the main event and disrupt the program you're already running with that. That's a big problem that they have when it comes to like sort of SmackDown and stuff like that as well. Like the way the women's roster runs, a lot of the time you've got 5 or 6 people vying for the belt, and you end up with these clusterfuck multi-women matches. There's no reason you couldn't have a secondary belt and have shit going on with that without having to worry event scene. I feel like that would probably be a massive benefit, even with the talent level that's on the main roster right now. I don't see why they haven't done it. I'm sure maybe at some point they will, but I don't think I've ever seen a women's secondary belt in general. It's something that really would be a big step up and would really represent a true commitment towards actually fostering a better women's division as well.
The thing is with all of this, though, if you gave the women more time, you don't even have to take time away from the men to do that. You just have to cut down all the guff you have in that show to give the women some more time, and it would make it a faster paced, better product to watch all in anyway, because let's face it, how many of us are sick of seeing the recaps after you've just watched a match and the blown out long opening promo segments and stuff that are really unnecessary and just slow the product down? You could easily give more time to the women, and it would, I think, improve the product straight away.
No, I definitely agree with you. More time should be given to the women. The opening promos are unnecessary. We don't need to know at the start of the show what's going to be happening. You don't need a 20-minute promo to tell us every single match or what the beginning match is going to be. Although that being said, and it's a little bit go away from the Mae Young Classic, personally, I was blown away by the John Cena Roman Reigns promo those two had. They were throwing barbs that seemed legit, and it was one of the Roman Reigns promos you were happy to watch. I really enjoyed it, but that was just me. What did you guys think of that one?
Total, it was great. It was one of those ones where you're sitting getting really invested in the sofa, like, oh, did he just say that? No, he didn't. Oh, like I thought, like just the small bits on it, and it goes to show. I know a lot of people don't like Cena. I personally do, and I think when Cena turns up, Cena is fantastic, and just the little things where like Roman kind of tripped over his words, and Cena just handled it straight away, like, oh, you know, take your time, it's fine, you'll get there, that sort of thing. You know, I thought it was really, really good. I thought both of the promos they had were fantastic. Enjoyed them.
I felt like the way that John Cena skewered him was cathartic as anything, because he said what most of us have been thinking for a long period of time. I don't know about the legitimacy of it, whether it was a shoot or not. I know Angles came out in public and said it is, but you know what it's like with a business. You never know whether somebody's telling the truth about that kind of thing, what actually happened on the night. But it did seem very legit to me. It carried an air of legitimacy to me, because it almost seemed very much like Roman panicked. Cena mocked him for it. Roman went, well, I'm going to stick my big boy pants on now and challenge you. And John Cena cut him down like a motherfucking bitch. Like, that was what happened. John Cena stood there, the seasoned statesman, going, son, if you think you can talk at me and you think you can mock me, you're absolutely tripping. Like, it was something truly special to behold. I don't know where it's going long term. The first one was a lot more organic than the second one was. That much is for certain. I'll be interested to see where this goes long term. I really hope for once in my life that it's Lol Cena wins. But I mean, the thing is, you saw from the reaction of the crowd and stuff as well. They put him out there with John Cena, hoping that what was going to happen was the same thing they've done with other stars in the past, with like CM Punk and that they were going to stick him out and people were just going to oppose John Cena, and that was going to be that. But they seem to have fundamentally miscalculated just how unlikable Roman Reigns is to such a large section of people. Like, it's getting to a point now where it's absurd. It's almost as if they're trying to avoid booking him as a heel, but they're accidentally doing it anyway now. If he wins, I hope it's through bullshit shenanigans and one of those ones that you look at and you go, yeah, of course you won that way, you fucking cunt. But like, other than that, we'll see where it goes long term. But this is what I love about John Cena. John Cena is a guy that I've despised for a long period of time, and I've really came round to him over the last year or so, watching him wrestle like AJ and stuff like that, because there is that very talented, very seasoned performer in John Cena, and it's there if he wants to turn it on. And he probably hated the product as much as the rest of us through the dark days. I think that's where a lot of that comes from. But John Cena's got the ability to be great when he can, when he gets the opportunity, when he turns up, he's something to behold. And this was another example of it. When he can sort of be bothered to do what he's going to do, he's got charisma for days. He's got the ability to pick and mock at someone in a way that no one else can. And we've not seen a lot of that since he was the, oh my God, it hurts to say, Doctor of Thugonomics.
No, just his parting line at the end of that promo, he just looks at Roman and says, I can do this better part-time than you ever could do full-time, and just drops the mic. For me, that was just a lovely parting comment.
I mean, the whole thing was just shots fired, though. Like, you've not, well done, you cut the first good promo you've cut in nearly 5 years. I can do this better part-time than you ever can. You're just the same as everybody else, coming out here and saying, I've got a golden shovel. Like, they've done a great job of addressing all the things that people use to mock Cena lately as well, and reclaiming a lot of them. They've used the word Super Cena. They've used the whole Cena enough thing as part of the new WWE Special Edition. They've really done a good job of turning around people's perception of John Cena, all just by co-opting the language we use to mock him. It's fucking incredible. Whoever marketing thought of that, good job, lad. Get that man a can of Coke.
I also loved the
Oh, no.
fourth wall break.
Oh, that was brilliant. Oh, that was great. But no, I think we've kind of gone off there on a tangent. But that being said, we definitely did enjoy the Mae Young Classic. Like I said, the final of the Mae Young Classic, we'll see Shayna Baszler going up against Kairi Sane, and that's live on the WWE Network on Tuesday, the 10th of September. Claire, who do you think is going to take that one home?
I really hope. I really hope it's Kyrie. I think she deserves it. She's been phenomenal. That's who I want, and that's who I think. There's a little cynical voice in my head that's got this whole four horsewomen future storyline thing where I'm thinking they might not give it to her, but I really hope it does go to her because I think she deserves it. She's had amazing matches so far. I really enjoy seeing her, and that's my personal pick for it.
For me, it's very much a Zack Sabre Jr. situation here because as we watched the Cruiserweight Classic, him and Ibushi were the obvious standouts, the obvious ones you expected to really take that. But a lot of why they didn't came down to backstage politics, not having signed a contract, not being there for the long haul. I don't know if they can offer Kairi Sane a big enough wage to take her away from Japan because Joshi's a big deal there. They'll pay an awful lot, like sort of to their talent. I don't know if they're going to be willing to offer the kind of contract it would take to lure her away from there. If they're not, it's going to be Shayna Baszler. It'll probably come down to that for me because honestly, I think being in the final is enough to have your face out there and enough to pull that storyline out your arse at that stage. That's why they put her in the final. I don't think she needs to win for that. I think the win will come down to whether they've been able to secure Kairi Sane long term or not. I think Asuka being there might actually be a good driving factor in her coming. There's things that she'd have the opportunity to do there that she won't have in Japan. It's possible. But again, it's Zack Sabre Jr. Kota Ibushi did they or didn't they sign. That's really what will decide who wins this, probably for me personally. I hope it's Kairi Sane, though. I hope they've done enough.
I'm the same with you guys. I really hope Kairi Sane wins. If Shayna Baszler wins, I won't be unhappy. I'll be slightly disappointed that it wasn't Kairi, but you never know. We might get something out of it. If that's a backdoor to having Ronda Rousey in the WWE, who knows? If that's something that they say, okay, we'll give Shayna Baszler the win as long as you come to WWE and we have a 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen feud. That could have been something that was discussed. But for me, I really hope that it's Kairi Sane and she's the winner of the first inaugural Mae Young Classic.
I can't wait to find out now. I know they've done it this way because they're having a live final, but like we powered through those episodes so quickly and then got to it, and I was like, oh crap! Now I'm gonna have to wait for the final, and I just want to know. So I think it'll be a good match regardless. But we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
No, definitely we'll have to wait and see.
If Kairi Sane does win, it does set up a lot of big potential matches for her. Because I imagine she'll go straight into developmental. You could get a good program out of her and Ember Moon. You could get a good program out of her and Ruby Riott. You could get a good program out of her and Nikki Cross. You couldn't really get a good program out of anyone in Peyton and Billy Kay for me personally. But I mean, if anyone could potentially do it, it might be Kairi Sane skipping and giggling to the ring and then beating the shit out of them with her serious face on. I'd like to see, also off the back of this, them take on some of this talent, like take on a lot of these guys. I know that they've pretty much secured Abby Lane and Candice LeRae at this point because we've seen them in NXT before. I reckon we'll be seeing them a lot more. Possibly seeing more Princess Shugi would be good. I don't know about Tessa Blanchard if she's too happy doing the indies. Again, it'd be real nice to see Serena Deeb back. There's a lot of positive things to draw from this and a lot of talent that I really hope they take on board. Because if we're gonna ever get what we talked about, with there being more time for women's wrestling, there has to be enough variation of talent as well. And this is a big factor in it because you've got enough women shown right there that you could easily get. I imagine. I've got to imagine, knowing at least in the UK what the women's scene is like at times, it's got to be easier to get a hold of women on contract as men as well from the Western world. Because, I mean, Kaylee Ray talked about it in her little promo package about how, like, there's been occasions where she's had more people backstage than out in the crowd when she's been at shows. And we went to a Fierce Female show that was much that kind of scenario. It was about 30, 40 people at that whole show at the top of Walkabout. It was a great show. I got to meet Leva Bate, which was quite nice. it was a really good show, and there's a lot of fundamentally sound talent. There's a lot of women who weren't on this as well, like Rhea O'Reilly, for example, that I would have liked to have seen brought over for it, but you can't get your whole shot list, I suppose. I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens long term, though, and I would imagine that there's going to be bits and pieces of this talent that will come, and hopefully they'll draw more from places like Progress and places like that. They clearly have some kind of arrangement going on with Shimmer right now. It'd be nice to see some more talent make its way through their developmental. All in all, so long as this long term works out to be a good thing for women's wrestling, I'll be very pleased.
No, I think all of us will be very pleased if this is a good thing for women's wrestling, and hopefully it will be, and I have faith that it should definitely be a good thing for women's wrestling. But that being said, I think we've covered all of our points for this evening, so it's a good a time as any to finish the podcast for tonight. So it's good night from me.
Good night from me.
And it's please, Kyrie from me.
And so from me, Andy, and Claire, it's good night. Thanks for listening to Talking Trash, and we'll see you again next time.